Marcus, thanks very much for sitting down with me today. I appreciate it. Marcus, weed improvement is a huge focus for Bayer as a company plans to invest $1.9 billion globally during the next 10 years into the sector. And we've seen this right here in Canada. You recently opened a new wheat breeding station in Pike Lake, Saskatchewan, a $24 million investment. Congratulations on that, by the way. It looks spectacular.
Thank you.
What do you see as the future for wheat in the next 5 to 10 years? Nice, simple question to get started off with, Marcus.
Yeah. So let's start with the acreage perspective there. Okay. I still see on the short term some pressure on the wheat acreage. However, there will be new options coming for wheat growers in the future. So why do I saying this? Because in the next 5 to 10 years, we will see the conclusion of the sequencing of the wheat genome happening. So this will be the basis for further advancement in wheat. We will also see the introduction or the wide application of the new breeding or modern breeding approaches within wheat, which opens up new ways to improve wheat from a disease perspective, so better disease resistance. You can address aspects like pre-harvest sprouting then also in a much more efficient way than we can do it today. And what we also will see is the wide application of precision ag in wheat and the digital farming. So this will also help a lot. And finally, as you know, we are focused on hybrid wheat. We will also see the introduction of hybrid wheat in the next 5 to 10 years, absolutely.
Right. So you're not willing to give me a month and a day of when that actually is going to hit the market?
No.
Perfect.
No, it's, the challenge with this is for hybrid wheat, it's a really huge project. You mentioned the investment, and from this perspective, there's still a couple of unknowns. I wouldn't use the word revolution, but it's really has the potential to be game-changing, and there are still a lot of things where we don't have the answers. But the good thing is, for many of the questions we had initially, we have found the answers.
So we know since the beginning of mankind, humans have been breeding plants for desired characteristics. We know that. I'm not sure the general public necessarily knows that, but we know that. Today we have precision breeding technology that allows us to speed this process up to where it used to take us 10 to 12 years. Now we can come close to cutting that in half for a new variety. Increasingly, policymakers and regulators and the general public scrutinizing this work and the breeding methods being used. So my question for you, Marcus, is how important are some of these so-called new breeding techniques, and what does it mean to the company in the coming years?
Let's have a look at, start with the wording. Is it new breeding technology? I would say it's an evolution of breeding technology. All the approaches that they are used are natural, so they occur in nature. There's nothing kind of we have invented. We are utilizing processes that are present in nature, to be very, very frank on that. So from this perspective, let's call about modern breeding approach, modern breeding technologies, because this is an evolution. In the past, we've used technology A, B, C. They were not always there. This is something where we stumbled upon, that we found, and good example is mutagenesis. Mutagenesis happens all around us. We are exposed to UV radiation, so as an example, and in the past, and suddenly humans start to use mutagenesis for introducing new traits, new features into plants. And I guess that's exactly what we're doing here. However, we have to communicate, we have to make clear that these technologies are absolutely crucial for agriculture and ultimately for the society to have a reliable food supply.
And so how does that translate to farmers?
With these technologies, we will be able, as I indicated earlier, to come up with new approaches for disease-resistant example, but also to increase yield and yield stabilities to a degree. In wheat, however, this is at the beginning. Wheat is a very complex genome, and we still have to understand all the interactions better to have a more targeted approach. So still a lot of work, but I believe it's crucial, and farmers will clearly benefit from the application of those technologies.
So I'm going to change gears a little bit now, Marcus. I understand you have a doctorate of philosophy with a focus on biotechnology. Not your everyday combination, Marcus. We know that as the seed industry released GM soybeans and corn in the early 90s, I think we know now we should have done more work on getting information into the hands of society and educate consumers about the technology. What lessons have we learned from the past, and how can we use that to be proactive with, so I won't say new breeding techniques, but I'll call them evolved breeding techniques. Does that mean we get to call them EBTs instead of NBTs, Marcus?
No, just, it's for me, as humans, we always invent something new.
Right.
And we in the agriculture industry, we have to tell our story. And I think when we introduced these new technologies in the 90s for soybeans, for corn, but also for canola, by the way, in 1996, we never told the story why. We really focused, this is so exciting, new technology. Imagine the possibilities. But we never told the story. Why is this so important? We never connected the dots properly. And it's not only, this is, I think, something for the whole industry. You can argue, it's easy to now from the past to challenge what was done by the people at that time. Well, I also believe at that time, was a different time. Nobody was talking about GM because it was so new. And I believe the people thought, it's such a great technology, we don't have to promote it, and I think that was the mistake.
Right, agreed. So now we're moving forward. What three things do we need to be thinking of? I'm going to try and pin you down to three.
Yeah.
Three things that we want that the industry should keep in mind when discussing plant breeding technologies, whether it's GM or CRISPR or whatever the next technology.
Yeah. I think the first one is clearly to be proactive. Really go out, talk about what we are doing, and not let other people push us into the defensive. Right. Recognize that the urban population of today is very remote from the farm. So think about how can you present the facts, the science in a way that is attractive. And there's no reason to be not proud of what we have achieved. So from this perspective, it's really bring the message across. Secondly, which is also for me crucial, do it with one voice. So we had discussion today at CSTA. What is the message for new technology from CSTA? What's the message from CropLife? What's the message from the individual companies? What's the message from the farmers? So really be united and move this forward and move it to as one unified message. And I said earlier, we can be proud of what we have accomplished. Food supply was never so safe as today, and never in the developed world at such low cost, and never so reliable. So I think this is something, a lot of things we can really be proud of. And finally, the ultimate aspect for me is when we have these two aspects covered, is take the consumer, take the general public seriously. So that they feel it's not kind of an alibi, it's something we want to have the dialogue. Thinking about that in today's world, 1% of the population in Canada is feeding 99% of the population. But still, the 99% are voters, and I think they determine the fate of this great nation. So I think that's something we really have to keep in mind.
Agreed. Marcus, I never get tired of hearing science guys telling communications guys like me that communications is the critical piece to getting the message out. So I love that. That's wonderful, Marcus. So now, again, a little bit of a change of gears. if you got a mom sitting in front of you, she's thinking about the health of her family and what's the best and healthiest way to eat, what kind of things are you going to tell her?
So, I said a little bit earlier, food was never so safe as it's today. It was never tested to the extent as today. Was never so reliable as of today. So I think that's something where the mom should be really considering, okay, food is safe. The key question is what is the most efficient or let's say the most healthy diet?
Right.
So how do I balance the inputs? Because you can get food for less money, enough calories for less money than ever before. But what is the right diet for my kids, for myself, to be healthy? That's the more critical question to be answered.
So, Marcus, does it seem strange to you that you and I are here having a conversation? You're the head of seeds for Canada for Bayer, and we're having a conversation about what we would tell moms about healthy food. And I think that the reality is we have to get comfortable with this conversation, don't we? You're obviously very comfortable with this conversation, and I think it's one that the industry really has to understand and get comfortable with it.
Absolutely, I agree. So it doesn't feel strange for me. I do a lot of volunteering in the Classroom Agriculture program, and I get a lot of questions, unfortunately not only from moms, but primarily from teachers. And the question is now, okay, is there anything we can change in the curriculum of teachers so that they understand agriculture a little better? Very often, after a couple of hours of my classroom session, I get get comments from teachers. I've never thought about this, I've never heard this. And we're talking about teachers trained biology.
Right.
So I think this is, for me, how can we close the gap between the urban population, between the, let's say, the general public and us in agriculture. And so that's something where I believe is, as an industry, has to be the main focus to maintain our social license. There's a friend of mine said a couple of years ago, science tells you what you can do. Society tells you what you should do. And I believe that's something we have to be aware of, and we have to work along those lines.
Perfectly well said. Thanks again, Marcus, for sitting down with me. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Marcus. That's great. Lorena, can you give us a little bit of your take on what's unique about this Pike Lake wheat breeding station that you folks have invested in?
As you're aware, we've had our big grand opening on June 10th and really excited. We've actually had plots in the ground for the past 3 years and exponential growth moving forward with the number of plots that Tom and his team have seeded. Definitely, we are 100% focused on research and development of hybrid spring wheat. These hybrids will be tailored to our growing conditions, tailored to the demands that farmers have as far as agronomics, diseases, and quality requirements. Pike Lake is one of 7 global wheat breeding stations. Wonderful collaboration as far as sharing germplasm, technologies, resources, ideas, so we can bring that all together and certainly have that collaboration, those partnerships between our breeders, and see what works globally and try it out in Western Canada. When we do bring a hybrid to the marketplace, we're just not selling a bag of seed or a truckload of seed. We're focusing on the integrated wheat solution. So of course it's going to start with the seed, but we will have the package where the best agronomic services, what practices can farmers utilize on the hybrid to best maximize yield and quality. We'll have the portfolio of crop protection products, right from seed treatments out to fungicides, again, maximizing that yield and quality. Digital farming will play an important role in it as well, evaluating potential risk share components as well. So again, it's tying us all in as one integrated wheat solution, and not just focusing on delivering seed to the marketplace.
Right.
And those 3 big, unique differences, I think, is what Pike Lake will bring to farmers.
So as we maintain our focus on hybrids, what challenges are we really trying to solve for the farmer? What challenges are we focused on for the farmer, and what is Bayer going to bring that's going to help that process?
For sure. Fortunately today, reality for wheat is almost grown as a rotational crop. The reason being, profitability on the farmer's wheat acres is tough to challenge. So for us to be successful in our breeding program and what we're bringing to the marketplace, we have to find ways to improve that productivity. So with hybrids, we believe, of course, yield improvement, but also providing yield stability for the farmer in 3 or 4 year span. Of course, we're huge exporters of quality wheat. We will focus on the higher valued premium quality wheat to ensure that farmers remain competitive globally and they're able to capture a premium in the marketplace.
So we've got some new wheat classes in Canada now. How is this going to help or hinder that process?
Just to back that up a bit, we've certainly been part of the process as far as the consultation, as far as what changes need to be done to the classification system. We certainly appreciate the efforts to recognize that we have some new germplasm, some new varieties that farmers were hugely interested in growing, and that they were able to recognize that and adapt the system to create this new class. The other thing we really respect and appreciate is listening to our global customers and realizing that we do have an issue with gluten strength, and so how can we change the system to address that? I think moving forward, again, having the flexibility, ability in the classification system to recognize some new germplasm, some new lines that we can bring in globally that would have a fit for Western Canada. And also recognize the effort that we have a wonderful brand developed for CWRS. There's interest from growers to grow a CPS type wheat or even the new Northern Hard Red Spring wheat. But we don't have a global position on those brands. So Bayer, along with the whole industry, needs to collaborate and focus on building the brand of other types of wheat. Because why can't we, as we position a higher quality CWRS, why can't we position a medium type quality wheat? Because we know they're using our CWRS for blending wheat. So hey, let's have the whole portfolio and probably need a medium type protein wheat to move into there. So there's been some flexibility, some wonderful changes to the system, and I think we need to push forward as far as, okay, what are we going to do with those classes? And I think Bayer will be a very strong part of trying to position that and develop that, because there is demand from farmers.
Lorena, you said 7 facilities, so one in Saskatoon or outside Saskatoon. Where are the other 6?
So we also have 2 located in the U.S., one just outside of Sabin, Minnesota, and the other one down in Lincoln, Nebraska. Sabin, Minnesota is also focusing on spring wheat, so we have very close collaboration between Pike Lake and Sabin. And then our Lincoln location is focusing on development of winter wheat for the U.S. market. Globally, we also have locations in Australia, Ukraine, Germany, and France.